Hey Ottawa, this is your Monday market snapshot for Monday, November 6th, 2023. My name is Annalee Rice. I'm a realtor here in Ottawa, Ontario, and every week I bring you updates on what's going on in the Ottawa real estate market. Now, this being the first update since the beginning of November, my plan was to have the Ottawa Real Estate Board stats to share this week. If you recall, last week I did go through the sort of month-end preview stats, and I will have those updated today later on in this update, but I have still yet to receive the board stats, so I do not have the month-to-month and year-over-year stats that come from the board, but I will include everything else, and hopefully we'll get that information soon, and I'll have to include it next week. I held off as long as I could today to delay this to include the board stats, but they just didn't come today. Okay, let's go. Okay, first off, let's look at what happened for active listings and sales in the city. First off, we have the active listings dropped for the second week in a row. We dropped by 36. Mainly it was the detached market and a few condominiums lower. And for sales, they dropped this week from what we saw last week was a bit of an increase. Mainly it was, again, detached and townhome sales that were slightly lower. This is the graph form for not only the overall inventory, which we see drop for the first time in about a month, but the active listings. This is the second week in a row that we've seen a bit of a decline there. And this week, after a little bit of an increase last week from sales and conditional sales, both dropped slightly this week. I'm trying to contemplate like what the reasons are for the drop. One, definitely because we're moving into the fall market and some people are just pulling off their homes from the market and deciding to hold off until spring potentially. It's also that we just had the end of the month and a lot of properties get canceled at the end of the month, or the expiry date is the end of the month. So we may see a little bit of a rebound in the coming days of more properties coming on the market if they do plan to keep them on. And then we also have Halloween. It landed in the middle of the week, so perhaps there were some people just taking it easy this week. I guess we'll see in the weeks to come if things continue to slow down or if there's any little bump here later in the fall. This week we had 351 properties listed. That's the overall, the yellow line there. It is a jump from what we had last week. And then of these properties, 113 of them, that's 32%, were relisted properties, and 238 or 68% were new to the market this week. So the new to the market is the blue line, and the relisted properties, again, if you can look at that since sort of mid-September, it's been quite high percentage number of properties being relisted every week. And sales this week, as you can see, dropped from last week's little jump. Okay, of the properties that sold this week, 22% of the homes sold with no conditions. That's been kind of up and down over the last few weeks. The 4-week average is 18%. Of the properties that sold this week, 7% of them sold within 7 days. That was only 9 sales, and 56% of them, or five properties, sold with no conditions of those quick selling homes. And the percentage of properties selling within 30 days on the market total is 53% this week. Next, we'll zoom into the different areas of the city, see what's going on. In the central urban region, we see that the number of detached homes dropped a little bit. Condos went up slightly. Townhomes were pretty steady. And sales were up for townhomes and condos, and completely steady for detached homes. In Canada and Stittsville, we had just the slightest increases of active listings for detached and towns, and a fair chunk drop of condos for sale, a drop of 8. Sales were down for townhomes, steady for condos, and slightly up for detached homes. For Barrhaven and Riverside South, we have a slight decrease in the number of active listings for detached and condos, and just up 1 for townhomes, and sales were down for detached and towns, fairly down, quite a bit for detached homes, only 4 sales, and condos were just up by 1. And in Orleans, we had property active listings were down for towns and condos, and slight increase for detached homes. And sales were down just slightly across property types in Orleans this last week. In the next 3 slides, I've got the full details for the detached homes, townhomes, and condominiums. Feel free to freeze those, pause if you want to look at the details. As I mentioned, the monthly snapshot, I didn't get the monthly details from the board, so I don't have those, but I do have the graph forms and all of the other month-end details that I normally include at the end of the month. Okay, so this is the inside the city limits, the residential last 12 months. So this is detached semis and towns, anything that is a freehold property. And you can see that the average sale price was just down slightly from last month, but you can see that the blue lines, the number of sales was down quite significantly. And for the condos, the average condo sale price was up slightly from what we had last month, which actually they've had a little bit of a rebound this fall. So the summer months were the lower points this summer, and September and October have been a bit higher. And the sales volume is down a little bit from September, but not significantly so, and that's a pretty normal drop in sales volume. Okay, so these are the month-to-month average sale prices. I have updated these slides from what I had last week, just slight little numbers changes. We actually see that the average sale price of a detached home in October increased over the last week there, and we actually were very flat. It was a $1,000 increase from September to October for detached homes. For semi-detached homes, up slightly, a 1.8% increase in the average sale price. And for freehold townhomes, this is the biggest drop I've ever seen for quite a while, but the average sale price dropped from about $620 down to $593 that's a 4.5% decrease. Condo row homes also saw a drop this last month, almost nearly 9%, but again, it's a little bit more of a volatile market. And condo apartments, on the other hand, saw an increase of nearly 5%. Here is the graph form for all of those numbers, and also going all the way back to 2018. You can see that the detached market peaked in the summer, and then the last 3 months have been lower. The semi-detached, that's the blue line, generally does have peaks and valleys, ups and downs, depending on what is selling. And those variances have been a little bit lower the last few months. And the townhome market had been on a very slow decline over the last 5 months or so. And then this last month, we did see a bit of a drop there. The condos are the purple and the green, and we see that the volatility of those markets, we have a bit of a increase for the condo apartments and the decrease for the condo towns this month. Okay, so this is just the same slides as I had last week. But I did update them just to show what the close price, the original list price was for October. And we see that on average, detached homes had about 96% of the original list price to close list price. And both townhomes and condos are in the 97.5 market range. The average days to sell for detached is holding steady. It was about 29 days, and townhomes dropped just slightly. It was at 22 days, and condos did rise at 34 days. This is just a recap of the same inventory breakdown. In fact, it is last week's slide. I didn't update that one, but this is going to lead us into the discussion of months of inventory. So the inventory is the one part that leads into the months of inventory, and the second part is the number of sales. So I did update the October sales. That's the black line. So you see that the October sales were lower than what we've seen in the last decade, and slightly lower than what we saw in September. And so inventory being higher over the last couple months, and then sales being slower, we expect to see with the months of inventory climbing. So these are updated from what I shared last week, and because we had all of the data, the full data for October, the numbers actually all moderated a little bit down. So last week it was well into the 5 months for the detached. So right now, citywide, detached is sitting at 4.8 months of inventory. Townhomes and condominiums are both sitting at 3.2. Just to remind what the definitions of months of inventory are, that if you had no more inventory, no more homes coming on the market, then how many months would it take to sell all of those properties at the same present sale volume, like how many sales are happening? And so with sales slowing down, inventory staying quite high, that's how you end up with a higher months of inventory. Anything below 4 months of inventory is considered to be a seller's market. 4 to 6 months, balanced market, and over 6 months is buyer's market. And although we had 4.8 for the detached, and so that would fall into the balanced market, it definitely does feel for the buyers out there that they have a lot more control, a lot more power. And so for them, it probably feels a lot more like a buyer's market. And we're definitely not in the market that we were at through 2020 through 2022, where it was very strong seller's market. This is a new slide. I actually wanted to break it down a little bit. This is just the detached homes across the city. So as the top left one is the 4.8 citywide. And I've got the red line across showing the 4 months. That's sort of the threshold for the balanced market, if you go by that definition. You can see that just in this last month, the citywide, it jumped up to the 4.8. And you can see inner urban and also Orleans, that's the bottom right, are both at 4.8, and Canada Stittsville, that's the top right, is at 4.6. So very similar months of inventory for all of those. And it's kind of interesting. You can see how like last fall, winter kind of thing, inner urban and Canada both jumped into that balanced market as well for that particular month. Maybe they had low sales or a bit of a peak of inventory. And you can look at Barrhaven, actually is still sitting below. It's sitting at 3.8 months. And even last year, it was September, they peaked out at about 4 months of inventory last year. So according to those stats, with the number of inventory, just fewer homes on the market as compared to the other places, a few more sales. They're nearing that 4 months of inventory, but clearly still below that 4 months of inventory. Okay, so the other metric that we can use is looking at the number of sales and the number of new listings. So this graph here shows the number of new listings in blue, the number of homes sold in red, and then the sales to new listing ratio as a percentage, with 50% is that little dashed line, is the dotted line with the yellow. So we see that we're nearing what would be considered more of a balanced market. If we continue to slow down on the number of sales, inventory holds strong, that yellow line will go down below the dashed line, and we would be more into the buyer's market. Okay, so a little bit of a update, a lot of repeating, but updated, just tweaking what we saw last week. And I'm really sorry that I don't have the Ottawa Real Estate Board stats. I was really hoping it was going to come out, but I will include that next week to provide the monthly stats. I hope you had a fantastic week and the time change hasn't been too difficult.